In 2007, this company sold more phones than anyone on Earth. 4 out of every 10 phones on the planet were theirs. 6 years later, they sold their entire phone business for less than the price of a single Silicon Valley app. The company was Nokia, and it wasn't beaten by a better company. It was beaten by a device it saw coming and decided to ignore. Sit with the scale of this for a second because it's almost hard to believe. At its peak, Nokia was Finland. It was, at one point, worth about 4% of an entire country's economy. It employed 250,000 people. If you owned a mobile phone in the 2000s, the odds are it said Nokia on the front, and it was probably indestructible. This was not a fragile company. This was the most dominant force the technology world had ever seen, more dominant in its moment than Apple or Google are today. And then, in the space of about 5 years, it was gone. Not shrinking, not struggling. Gone. The phone division sold off, the brand a memory. How does the undisputed king of an industry vanish that fast? Not through laziness, not through some obvious blunder. The answer is stranger and far more useful to you, because the same trap that killed Nokia is waiting for every dominant company alive today. And we're not guessing at this. Nokia's collapse is one of the most studied corporate failures in modern business history, dissected in Harvard case studies, insider books, and interviews with the executives who were in the room. What they revealed is the uncomfortable part. Nokia didn't miss the future. It saw it clearly and froze. 4 decisions turned the king into a cautionary tale. Here they are. First, understand what Nokia actually was, because it makes what happened next so much more tragic. Nokia wasn't born a tech company. It was born in 1865, as a paper mill, on a river in Finland. Over the next century, it became a rubber company, making boots, tires, raincoats, then cables. For 100 years, Nokia survived by being brilliant at one thing, reinventing itself completely when the world changed. In the 1990s, it made its greatest bet. It threw away almost everything else and went all in on a strange new idea, the mobile phone. And it won, bigger than anyone imagined. Nokia phone, the brick that survived being dropped, drowned, and run over. Nokia didn't just sell phones, it put a phone in the hand of the entire planet. So here's the cruel irony at the heart of this story. The one skill Nokia had proven for over 100 years, the ability to abandon its past and leap to the next thing, was the exact skill it lost at the one moment it needed it most. The company that reinvented itself 5 times couldn't do it a 6th. Because here's the detail that makes grown executives wince. Nokia didn't get blindsided by the smartphone. Nokia invented pieces of it years early. Before the iPhone existed, Nokia had working prototypes of touchscreen, internet-connected phones. They had a tablet, they had the ideas, the engineers, the money, everything. Insiders have said the company explored a large touchscreen device with online access and shelved it. Why would a company bury its own future? 2 reasons, and they're the reasons dominant companies always freeze. First, it was making too much money to stop. Nokia's existing phones were a river of profit. Betting on a radical new device meant risking the golden goose. And when you're winning, every instinct screams, don't rock the boat. Second, and this is the quiet killer, the problem was invisible from the inside. Nokia's own software, called Symbian, ran on hundreds of millions of phones and worked fine. From inside the castle, everything looked strong. The engineers raising alarms were drowned out by sales charts still pointing up. That's the trap. Success doesn't feel like danger. It feels like proof you're right. Then, in January 2007, a company that had never made a phone walked on stage and showed the world the iPhone, and Nokia's leadership laughed. One reaction from inside the industry was essentially, it's too expensive, the battery's weak, it'll never last. A toy. They were looking at the thing that would destroy them, and they saw a toy. By 2010, the laughing had stopped. The iPhone, and then Google's Android, were eating Nokia alive. Its Symbian software, fine for a button phone, was a clumsy disaster in a touchscreen world. Every month, the empire lost ground. In 2011, a new CEO wrote an internal memo that became legendary. He compared Nokia to a man standing on a burning oil platform in the freezing sea, forced to choose between the flames behind him and a terrifying leap into the icy water ahead. The company, he admitted, was on fire. His solution was the most fateful decision in Nokia's history. Instead of building its own answer, Nokia would leap into the water by partnering with Microsoft, throwing out its own software and betting the entire company on Windows Phone. On paper, it had a logic. In reality, it was 2 drowning giants grabbing each other. Windows Phone had almost no apps, almost no users. Nokia had abandoned the software that ran on its remaining hundreds of millions of devices, killing its present to bet on a future that never arrived. Customers didn't want a third choice. They wanted an iPhone, or they wanted Android. The burning platform memo, meant to inspire urgency, also did something else. It told the whole world Nokia was on fire. Sales collapsed faster. There's a bitter irony historians point to. The new CEO had come from Microsoft, and the direction he chose led Nokia straight into Microsoft's arms. In 2013, it was over. Microsoft bought Nokia's phone business for around $7 billion. Now, $7 billion sounds like a lot. So let me give you the number that tells the whole story. That same year, Facebook bought WhatsApp, a messaging app, a few dozen employees, no factories, no phones, for $19 billion. The company that once was the mobile phone sold for barely a third of what a chat app was worth. And the ending is almost too on the nose. Microsoft's own Nokia phone bet failed within a couple of years. They wrote off nearly the entire purchase and shut most of it down. Nokia phones, as the world knew them, simply ceased to exist. The king of the mobile world, 150 years of reinvention, erased in the time it takes to get a college degree. So, in 2007, Nokia sold 4 of every 10 phones on Earth. 6 years later, it sold the whole business for the price of an app it could have built in an afternoon. And it wasn't beaten by a smarter company. Every advantage was Nokia's. The engineers, the money, the prototypes, even a 100-year habit of reinventing itself. It lost because it was winning so completely that it couldn't feel the ground move. That's the lesson worth keeping, and it's not about phones. The most dangerous moment for any company, or any person, is not when they're failing. It's when they're dominant. Because success feels exactly like being right. And we've always won doing it this way is the most expensive sentence in business. Nokia saw the future. It held the future in its hands. And it put it back on the shelf because the present was still too profitable to let go.